I'm not really a guy that cries at movies or TV, but when I am emotionally invested, I'm invested. And this episode grabbed me by the throat and wow. Season 2 has been announced yesterday. I'm so glad because the way this episode picks up the story and drives to a conclusion that's saying to us, hey, this is a self-contained story, so we might have ended up with only one season, judging by this episode, but nope, Season 2 got announced. Now let's not get ahead of ourselves and first discuss episode 15 of The Bad Batch. Hi fellow Disney Plus watchers, this is Thoughts After a Disney Plus Watch, where we review everything new Disney Plus coming out, and I'm glad you're watching. This is the channel that's specifically about movies, shows, and all that's Disney Plus original stuff. So just fair warning here before we start, I do want to discuss spoilers, because, you know, this is a biggie. Of course, I want to talk about it without constraints, so you can press that watch later button if you haven't seen it yet. Still here, let's go. The episode starts out with Hunter trapped on Crosshair's ship, so we find out that he's not on Darrow anymore, but he's being taken to Kamino, and of course we all hoped that the show would go back to Kamino to really wrap things up. In the meantime, our Bad Batch crew is ready to go after fixing the ship. Gregor is staying behind with Sid, which is a funny detail, but also just a throwaway explanation of why he's not along for the ride, and this episode didn't need him at all, so I get it. And when we see Crosshair's ship coming into Kamino and we hear this, I gasped. I love this classic Star Wars motif, even though I can't exactly remember which theme it is and what it represents. If you are watching this and remember this piece of music in the original films, please let me know. I would love it. Here, let me play it one more time. Okay, stay with me here. I'm going back to the story in a sec, but I just want to say how much better the composer Kevin Kiner has become. His music in the Clone Wars is pretty meh, I think, and sometimes downright distracting. Like, it's just fake sounding orchestra going... And now he's experimenting with all sorts of sounds, like a Crosshair's motif, which is underscored with some pretty heavy electronics. You know? And the orchestra sounds way more cinematic in The Bad Batch. It's all way more epic than the Clone Wars soundtrack. But let's get back to the actual episode itself. I don't know about you, but I was a little bit confused about the crew getting different coordinates than the exact location Hunter was at, because the only thing Crosshair did, if I'm not mistaken, was sending a signal, and that's why the Bad Batch knows where to go, right? But apparently Crosshair sent coordinates that got them to this hidden platform that directly led to a secret passway. Why not send them to the main platform where they could get arrested immediately? That would have made more sense, but maybe Omega got coordinates from someone else like Nala Se, but I don't think that is stated. So I'm a little bit confused, but still really like the look and feel of this underwater network, and this makes the world of Kamino that much more richer. I like it. And are you kidding me? Is it weird for me to say I like Omega's haircut way better like this? You can't say I'm the only one, right? Right? We see a little bit more of the exact place and actually the exact tubes where all the members of the batch, including Omega, were created. There weren't any huge reveals here. If I'm totally honest, this was the setting to do a big reveal. Felt like it was coming, but that's just me being an entitled fan. It doesn't matter at all. I really love the conversations between Hunter and Crosshair, just simply two former friends, both feeling like they're the ones who are doing the right thing. Crosshair talking about the bigger picture, of course talking about how the Empire ensures order. I mean, we all know it's also just terror, but Crosshair genuinely believes. And speaking of genuinely believing, damn it, pulling a twist like that. Crosshair admitting, I've got the chip removed a long time ago. This ripped my heart open, and it's exactly the twist the show needed. Think about it. What would make Crosshair that much more of a villain? Changing his victim role, him being mind controlled by the chip, and actually changing that to, no, actually he's actually a bad guy. This is his worldview. He's not a victim of circumstance, he's a force to be reckoned with. And why it is so devastating is of course because we've seen Hunter and the Bad Batch crew preparing for a confrontation with Crosshair, counting on helping him removing the chip. That was the whole goal, and now that plan is shattered. Also Hunter asking, when did you get rid of it? And Crosshair saying, does it matter? And Hunter reacting with, yes. I was right there with Hunter, because it does change the perception when we know when it got removed and why. I suspect General Rampart somehow saw that Crosshair didn't need it anymore after a while, so he made sure Crosshair would lose it so that they're certain there aren't any complications, or... hear me out, or they're gonna get rid of this clone programming soon, so all the chips wouldn't work anymore, like the software would get removed. It's weird to call it software, but... And before that was going to start, the Empire made sure Crosshair's chip was already removed so that they could, you know, nurture him independently or something. By the way, I want to take a moment and I want you to look at this clone trooper and just have a moment of silence. Damn, this breaks my heart. We didn't see anything from the Kaminoans themselves this week, so we haven't seen much of the reaction to the full evacuation of everyone. We hear about it, you totally feel the dread and the power of the Empire, and the whole atmosphere within this episode was amazing, but I do feel like I wanted to see a little more from the Kaminoans to make all that is happening even more impactful. Absolutely amazing to see all the halls and rooms being completely empty. It actually broke my heart a little bit, because it's both symbolic for how this show is a beginning and an end at the same time, and also how much of a destructive force the Empire is. This was also one of the moments I was slightly tearing up. This already felt like the season finale with a cliffhanger, but we're getting another one next week, and I'm more than hyped. This episode felt like Star Wars. I already talked about the score and how that is way better and more like Star Wars, but also seeing the Star Destroyers, hearing Tarkin say, "You may fire when ready," things like that really draw me in as a Star Wars fan, and this episode wasn't only a great story with an amazing tragic twist to our villain, it also did the things that turned me on as a Star Wars fan, not meant in a weird way, of course. I'm thinking about wrapping this up. I'm thinking about doing a ranking of all the 16 episodes next week. Let me know if you would like that. I'm really curious. Thank you so much for watching. And I want to know, what did you think of this episode? Be sure to let me know in the comment section. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the idea of discussing Disney Plus content with us, that red button looks familiar, right? And if you're interested in thoughts on previous episodes, it's all in the description, or you can browse the channel page. Did you like this video? Then be sure to consider giving that a click. Thanks. For now, have a wonderful day and see ya.